evening. First of all, I'd like to say that the economic crisis is very global, and that includes Africa, Asia, America, and the rest of the world. And this recession has actually widened the gap between the rich and the poor. And of course, the working class are being exploited even more. I will be speaking more for the cleaners, because these are the set of workers that I represent. And predominantly, the cleaners are migrant workers. And as migrant workers, they are, suffering very much from the economic crisis. And as you all know, that the cleaners on the underground and all over Britain are being, exploited because of the hostile immigration laws. As migrant workers, there are some group of workers that are, tend to be undocumented. And so the cleaning bosses, they capitalize on this and use this to exploit the cleaners. And the cleaners over the years were paid peanuts for the amount of work they do, until the unions stepped in and organized the cleaners. And for several years, there was a relentless campaign for the London living wage for cleaners and better conditions of employment. It was a very difficult task to organize the cleaners. I remember 5 years ago when we started the process of organization. People thought we were crazy because these are cleaners that were very vulnerable. They were working in fear, and they were scattered all over. And it was really, really difficult. But we believed that we could do it. And we believe that, the only way to overcome the suffering was to get organized. And so we set out, to organize the cleaners. And with the help of some activists in RNT and the national executive of the RNT, the cleaners on the underground, through industrial action, got the London living wage in September 2007. This shocked the cleaning bosses because they least expected the cleaners to even speak out for themselves, let alone to carry out an industrial action. It was a shock in the sense that in the history of this country, for the first time, the cleaners on the underground embarked, not only got a unanimous vote, they embarked on a strike. It was it was like a blow to them, and so they set out to victimize the activists. And sadly enough, most of our activists were systematically and calculatively victimized by their immigration status. And so we lost some very good activists during the cleaners' disputes and the underground. But of course, there's always a price to pay for freedom. And we believe for freedom in the working class. And so the working class are now being blamed for this recession rather than the bankers and the politicians who made some stupid decisions and dragged this country and other countries into recession, like the decision to go to war in Iraq and Afghanistan. And so the working class are now being made to pay for the mistakes of the bankers and the capitalists. And, in the midst of recession, we have some slogans like the British jobs for British people, which is not only a racist slogan, but it's a plot to divide the working class. And for the capitalists to drag down wages, we must resist this. I can understand how the slogan came on, but I do believe that there is an alternative. And the only alternative is for us to organize. And for the unions to come together and organize every worker in every sector to fight the bosses. Because a defeat to one section of worker is a defeat to all, and we must resist it. We must also denounce this slogan because it is forming a platform for the Nazis BNP, to come up in the political system. We all know that the BNP is not a normal it's not a proper political organization, rather a bunch of criminals. We believe that there is a positive alternative, and the only alternative is to have a proper organization in the working class, and not only to organize the working class, because that was a lesson we learned from the cleaners' disputes, that it is always very proper to maintain the organization. There's one thing to organize, and there's another thing to maintain the organization and to protect the organization. And then that leads us to the question, as what do we really want from this conference? I would really want us to look at the ways whereby we will link up as one in the working class, to support ways to support each other in terms of strikes and other movements towards strengthening the working class. Strengthening unity among all working class in order to defeat the bosses, because we are faced with a worse, we will be faced with a worse scenario in this period, in the sense that the capitalists will get greedier, as we have obviously seen. That even though they're making more profits, they are still wanting to cut down jobs and cut pay rises. And this is something that we really need to look at and come up with ways as to achieve this unity that we really need in the working class. Thank you.